and welcome to this live stream of today's public meeting brought to you by Downtown Gun Rapids, Inc. We will begin shortly. Please keep your sound on, and we'll see you soon. Hello, and welcome to this live stream of today's public meeting brought to you by Downtown Gun Rapids, Inc. We will begin shortly. Please keep your sound on, and we'll see you soon. Hello, and welcome to this live stream of today's public meeting brought to you by Downtown Gun Rapids, Inc. We will begin shortly. Please keep your sound on, and we'll see you soon. Hello, and welcome to this live stream of today's public meeting brought to you by Downtown Gun Rapids, Inc. We will begin shortly. Please keep your sound on, and we'll see you soon. Hello, and welcome to this live stream of today's public meeting brought to you by Downtown Gun Rapids, Inc. We will begin shortly. Please keep your sound on, and we'll see you soon. Hello, and welcome to this live stream of today's public meeting brought to you by Downtown Gun Rapids, Inc. We will begin shortly. Please keep your sound on, and we'll see you soon. Hello, and welcome to this live stream of today's public meeting brought to you by Downtown Gun Rapids, Inc. We will begin shortly. Please keep your sound on, and we'll see you soon. Hello, and welcome to this live stream of today's public meeting brought to you by Downtown Gun Rapids, Inc. We will begin shortly. Please keep your sound on, and we'll see you soon. Hello, and welcome to this live stream of today's public meeting brought to you by Downtown Gun Rapids, Inc. We will begin shortly. Please keep your sound on, and we'll see you soon. Hello, and welcome to this live stream of today's public meeting brought to you by Downtown Gun Rapids, Inc. We will begin shortly. Please keep your sound on, and we'll see you soon. Hello, and welcome to this live stream of today's public meeting brought to you by Downtown Gun Rapids, Inc. We will begin shortly. Please keep your sound on, and we'll see you soon. Hello, and welcome to this live stream of today's public meeting brought to you by Downtown Gun Rapids, Inc. We will begin shortly. Please keep your sound on, and we'll see you soon. Hello, and welcome to this live stream of today's public meeting brought to you by Downtown Gun Rapids, Inc. We will begin shortly. Please keep your sound on, and we'll see you soon.
Do these hanging mics, are they plugged in? Do they work? Okay, so they pick up too, all right. All right, well, let's call the meeting to order. We do not have a quorum, but we will start through materials, review them as best we can, and we are waiting for one more member who said they would be here, so hopefully that'll happen and we can be doing some approvals. So this is the Downtown Improvement District. Today is February 28th or February 18th. And the agenda has been distributed and made available. Hope everybody had a chance to review it and review the materials. First, I'd like to introduce a new committee member, Cullen Hillary with CWD. You want to give us a little background if you can?
Sure.
Welcome. Yeah.
Thank you. Cullen Hillary, CWD. I've been with CWD for just shy of 8 years. Facilities is my background. There we go. I started my career with hotels, living out in DC, but born and raised here in Grand Rapids, and here raising my family. So.
Good. Well, welcome. Glad you're here. Yeah. All right. We do now have a quorum. Emily is here. How are you?
Good, sorry,
Good.
complex day.
All right. So the meeting is officially in session. How's that? Yeah. You know, we've got approval of the January financial statements. The big work today is approval of the reauthorization plan for next year, which we'll go through in some detail with you. But also, we need to approve minutes. The November 17th minutes were distributed and need approval on, as were the December 15th. November was because in December we did not have a quorum to approve those meetings. So hopefully everyone has had a chance to review them and take a motion to approve. Both or one? Both. All right, good. There we go. And a second? All right. All in favor, say aye. The meeting's as read. All right. Thank you. Opposed? Okay. Got that done. All right, Trish, you want to go through the year-to-date statements through January?
Yes, good afternoon. The statements as of January 31, 2022 are before you. You can see where we're at cash balance-wise in both the district-wide and the snow melt funds. We do still have some assessments to collect. I think we're about at the point where it's unlikely we'll be collecting too much more. I think about $200,000, if I remember right from last year, is about what we had to write off. So hopefully we will collect a little more and look into seeing, where some of the nonprofits are at, and hopefully we'll receive some more payments from those. Budget-wise, both funds are around 36% of the way through their budget. Snow melt expenditures went up a little bit, as to be expected as winter's here. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to take them. Otherwise, I would look for approval on Statement C, which is your list of expenditures, everything that has been spent through November to January.
So you think probably most of what's been assessed has been collected that we're going to get?
I'm thinking so. That's about where we were at last year.
Unless we got any more
Pardon?
if we got more voluntary contributions. But
Has the CAA paid their second half?
I'll have to look into that.
yeah,
Pardon?
I'll double check.
I'll have to
I know
look
they're
into
going
that.
to.
They what?
They will. if
Yeah, they
have.
will. That's
Yeah.
a pretty good check, right? All right. Yeah, that would get us down to about, I think they're committed to another 32,000, I believe. So that would help, but yeah. Okay, any questions on the financial statements, revenue expense, or the list of expenditures? We need approval of the expenditures,
Yes, please.
which are detailed in the report, Exhibit C. Hope you've had a chance to look at them. I have gone through them. I'll take a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve.
All right, and a second, please? Second? All right, any questions on any of the expenditures? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye, aye, all right. And opposed? None, good. All right, thanks, Trish. All right, next on the agenda is the acceptance, review and acceptance approval of the fiscal year 2023 reauthorization plan. And are you going to walk us through that, Melvin?
That is me.
Okay.
Is this on? How do I know this is on? Yeah.
You should be.
Good. Can we advance the slides? Please and thank you. All right. First up is, which we perused by real quick. It's okay. It's just a quick reminder of the sort of track for reauthorization that we're on here. It's just a reminder of the schedule. So we're tracking down being able to take this plan to City Commission for setting the public hearing on the 15th of March and being able to have the public hearing on the 29th of March with approval coming sometime in April. So the next slide here is just a highlight of the significant changes that we are proposing in the plan. So I'll walk you through these and then we'll just open it up for questions. So probably one of the bigger changes is related to residentially owned property. So looking to add them to the assessment roll as a flat rate assessment, which is different than how we assess other properties. So currently we're at $120 per unit or per property. We estimate this to generate about $57,000. This might, if you remember, this is a little bit of a change. We were sort of budgeting on 360 properties. The assessor came back with a much cleaner and better updated roll of resident properties in the district. So that number jumped from 360 to 475. So our budget number jumped from 43,000, give or take, to 57,000. The nice thing that, obviously, besides taking in additional assessment dollars, that this allows us to do is drop the per property assessment rate from 120 to 90 to stay to $90 per property to stay within our original budget of $43,000. So that is still a little bargaining chip that we have there to kind of drop the assessment rate down, which is good. In addition to that, we're proposing to add a $50,000 matching grant to the resident funds to bring their total up to around $100,000 to do something with those funds, specifically for new resident-led service initiative, whatever those residents that we convene decide that we want to pilot for the coming year.
Didn't we see when we did the survey with it, that lots of concerns with homelessness and panhandling that we need to help try
So
to
the
address
top
that?
three, if you recall from the survey that we did later last year, the top three issues were related around safety, panhandling, quality of life services, specifically around just the amount of homeless people in downtown.
So we got funds set aside, yet to be determined
Correct.
how to use them. But
Correct.
Led by that group. of
Correct.
Residents.
Yes. The next change is with private nonprofit organizations. So currently, they are voluntarily, they pay voluntarily into the DID. So we are proposing to place them back on the assessment roll, so their contributions will no longer be voluntary, and they'll remain at the 60% of the assessment that they pay. So even now, at the voluntary rate, they're only sort of billed, which is not the right word, but billed, for lack of a better term, at 60% of what their assessment would be. That would remain, which was how it existed prior to them becoming voluntary.
And if the committee will remember, they were initially on the assessment roll back when it started in 2000? 2000?
Yep.
And somewhere along the line, the last 5 or so years, it was determined that they did not receive benefit, so they were taken off of the roll. Kind of a surprise to all of us, but we're proposing to bring them back on the roll, certainly on the assumption that they do receive benefit. It was determined originally that the benefit rate was 60% of what a full assessment was, and we would bring it back at that same original percentage of the assessment, so.
Awesome.
Go ahead.
The next change is with the snowmelt. So we're actually reducing the overall assessment of snowmelt. So it's currently budgeted at $180,000. So we're reducing it to what we actually generally collect now, which is $170,000. We're keeping, and we're aligning expenditures to meet that $170,000 too. So the snowmelt ratepayers would actually see a slight break comparatively. So that would be 2 consecutive plans that they've probably gotten a reduction in rate. So that'll probably make them happy. General assessment, so we're increasing the overall general assessment by 5% to cover inflationary costs and increasing the ambassador wages primarily. And I should just mention that this 5% is of the general assessment. It's not 5%. The 5% doesn't include the residential piece. That's additive to the overall budget as well. And then the biggest sort of line item change we have is the maintenance and beautification, which we anticipate going up about $80,000 for the ambassador contract, which will increase the base ambassador wage to $15 an hour permanently. It's currently at that rate now, but we're using sort of our banked hours to accommodate that. And we're proposing a split between the DID and the DDA, with the DID picking up $51,000 of that cost and the DDA paying about $29,000 of that cost. That's a really quick and dirty overview of those changes. And one thing I forgot to mention is here we are only pursuing a 1-year reauthorization, so we would be going back through this process in August probably. So that's, like I said, that's a really quick overview of sort of all of the highlights and changes of the plan. Not much has probably changed since the last time we went through the plan, but we can open it up for questions or comments or.
Hey, Melvin, I got a question for you on the financial statements that Tricia went through with us on statement B, which is called the income statement of revenue and expenditures. The total expenditures district-wide was, the budget was $1,056,000, and the Stonewall was $180,000. So, together that's $1,325,000 if you're rounding. How does that? I know you just said the snowmelt, you guys are budgeting $10,000 less, right?
Yep.
170. But how does that compare? I just want to make sure that we've got the right, we're looking at this from an assessment standpoint to cover the expenses that we had.
Sure. So if you look at the plan itself, The 5% increase is specific to the general assessment. It doesn't include the snowmelt assessment, since that's a separate sort of overlay district that only certain stakeholders would pay. So there's no increase to that, but the general assessment, so on page 4 of the plan, under where it says FY23 district-wide assessment, that's the number that we increased by 5%. The operating budget for non-snowmelt services.
I guess I was focused on the expenditures, so not the top box.
Oh, sure.
The second box.
Yeah.
We've got $1,162,000 budgeted, and it looks like we're at $1,325,000 for last year's budget, or the current fiscal year budget, I should say. So I'm just curious, I just want to make sure that we didn't miss anything at that point. I don't think you guys did, I just don't.
Sure.
You
I'm not quite following your question.
Are you on this exhibit B of the financial statement?
Statement B,
Yeah.
if you look at the budget, we were at $1,056,000 for total expenditures district-wide.
Okay.
We had $180,000 for the snow melt. You add those together, that's $1,325,000.
Yep.
If you look then at your box, the second box in your plan on page 4,
Oh,
we're
okay.
at a million, well, I guess, no, never mind, we're at $1,330,000.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I just figured out what you were asking, yeah. So yeah, the final box at the bottom totals up both the total expenditures, including the snow melt.
Okay. So
Yeah.
we're-
Right.
we're-
Yep.
Okay, sorry.
No, it's all right.
Oh, good.
Me too.
Yeah, it's interesting to watch the snow melt over the years. The costs on the snow melt have been averaging about $160 to $170. 5 years ago, for some reason, they were $200,000 plus. So they've really come down. I don't know whether it's just luck of the weather or better maintenance of them, but so we there's no need to, and they have about a $400,000 surplus going to this year. So we don't need to, we need to start working down that surplus a little. So I don't know of any major work that needs to be done, but we seem to have a good handle on it. So trying to bring those costs down.
The natural gas costs associated with the steam are going to go up the fuel source.
Yeah, there may be operating.
Huh?
There may be operating costs that go up.
Oh, yeah, sure, but we've got plenty of surplus to absorb some of that for a while. You know, if we can keep the cost down for a few years while inflation spikes here and then maybe over time start to increase it, that's probably the best way to go. I hate to sit on 2 or 3 years of operating expenses in our surplus with them, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
A separate, I'm finished with that, I have a separate question that relates to the not-for-profits and the assessment. What's the percentage that have been paying into this voluntarily during the last couple of years?
What's the percentage that are voluntarily paying?
Yeah,
I'm going to do this off the top of my head. See if I got some here. It seemed to me, Emily, that it's about 60% pay, 40% don't.
That's about
There's
right.
about 55,000, pretty consistent, 50 to 55,000 it is, oh, he's got it right here, that
It's
don't get,
a little
that
over.
is not paid every year.
Yeah.
And it's a little over, yeah, what are you saying
the
here?
additional revenue coming from,
Pardon?
the additional revenue anticipated from that,
The additional?
what, with all of them paying?
It's about 40.
About 50, in the budget, I've got it accounted at, where's the, 55,000 would be the additional revenue, assuming a 5% increase in the base rate. You probably can't see it on what you have. I've got a detail of it. Yeah. Yeah.
The 60%, I may have talked about this before, but the 60% of benefit was derived from a conversation some years back. Is that,
Yeah,
that's just an approximation or a gut
Yeah.
sense?
yeah. We don't exactly know.
The history of it is, when we did this back in the year 2000, put this to the community and worked with the city commission to get it implemented, there was some pushback by couple of city commissioners that nonprofit shouldn't pay. Well, it was agreed that they did benefit. They were in the district. They were benefiting from clean and all the other stuff. So we compromised kind of at the last minute and said, well, we'll discount it to 60%. And everybody said, okay. So no science to it. You know, it's saying, well, they probably don't benefit from the advocacy and marketing and maybe perhaps some of the administration. So that's kind of where we try to put our arms around it. Yeah.
There's certainly a number of different kinds of not-for-profit organizations, some of which receive a lot of benefit. There are other cultural
Right.
people destinations.
Yeah, the challenge is we still do the work. This work's still getting done, and it's just getting absorbed by everybody else.
One other comment is that with the addition of residential to the equation, I like this match fund. I think that is a nice bridge into that of doing some more specified benefit to that constituency as they're being added in. So I was glad to see that piece.
That's sort of what we heard too on our rounds, that they kind of appreciated having more funds available to them without having to pay higher assessment into the district. So it's been a good sort of caveat to kind of entice them to want to pay in.
On the residential?
On the residential piece, yeah.
Yeah, right, yeah. You want to talk about the new grant that we have that's in the budget?
Yep, I can mention
That's
that.
part of the
We
process.
did, you'll notice in the FY23 proposed budget, there's a maintenance grant that was received. We had an anonymous donor provide $100,000 for general maintenance and beautification in downtown. And so we were able to, instead of, initially, if you'll recall, we were talking about a 10% increase for district-wide assessment. We were able to essentially cut that in half for next year. That said, we'll likely need to look at another increase for the next fiscal year, but at least this is a way to sort of step into that and not have a real dramatic change for next fiscal year. So that's all I can say about it.
I'm trying to think what else. You know, if you look at the breakdown of kind of what these things mean, I've got it here. We talked about it a little here, but the 5% increase in the base assessment rate is additive of about $55,000 a year in assessment. 5% of $1 million is essentially how you get there. The condominiums or the residentially owned property at $120 per unit is $57,000. That's additive revenue. Taking nonprofits from voluntary to part of to the assessment, in which it would be a lien on their property, that's another $55,000. And this new grant that Tim just mentioned, which is $50,000 a year for what? 20 years?
Yeah, it does
Long
have
time.
another purpose going
Right.
forward, but at least for this year. But yeah, it was
First
it was
2
$1 million.
years, we
Yep.
can use it.
Yep.
But that's going to fall off essentially after this year because the purpose will have been put in place. It's for the Lion
think,
Street
yep.
improvements, right?
Yep.
That's 100, but we're going to increase some funding to the ambassadors with that and some downtown safety and policing, hopefully, along with what the funds we're collecting from the residential property owners. Those are the major pieces that are different in this. And changing the compensation for the ambassadors and the clean team from, what was it, $13 or $14 to
Yeah, 13.
$15 an hour. We couldn't fill the positions, and so stuff wasn't getting done. And of course, when you increase the starting wage, you have to bump everybody, but, and we did that as of, what, November or October of November this year?
Yeah, October, I think we started mid-October 21.
And we had a lot of we had enough bank money with the clean team provider, service provider, to we used up those hours to pay for that for this year. So we got to fund it next year, so. And then inflation, and the reason we stayed with another single year assessment, where the plan was to go to 3-year at least, we said, well, we don't want to get caught with inflation again. You know, it's going to be a problem. It's utilities or whatever it is. We're going to have some more inflationary issues. So we thought, well, let's just go another year for the assessment and then try to go back out next time for 3-year, something longer term. But, you know, there's work to be done. I know that Tim and Melvin have been meeting with some of the private residential property owners. You want to give us a little update, the condominium owners?
So to date, we've had 3 virtual meetings that have comprised a spectrum of residential property owners. Next week, we start meeting in person at individual condo associations or individual properties. Specifically, next week we are meeting with Plaza Towers, and then the following week we are meeting with River House, which are our 2 largest residential property sort of concentrations in the downtown. And then we have a virtual one set up with all the Florida residents from River House that are currently in much warmer weather than we are at now. And then I believe we have 2 other virtual sort of general sessions scheduled between next week and sort of the middle of March. Overall, the response has been pretty supportive of the DID as a whole, and residents having a bigger voice in the downtown and its management. I think, you know, nobody wants to voluntarily jump in and say, you know, take my money, but I think once we can sort of pitch it as, you know, resident-specific services that would benefit those residents and their overall quality of life downtown, and, you know, when we kind of break it down that it's, you know, $10 a month, you know, I pay more than that in my Netflix subscription. So I think once we kind of approach it from that perspective, a lot of people really like understand that this is an investment in their community, and they're happy to pay it. Maybe is not the exact right words, but they understand, and I think they generally support it. So yeah, I think the support is there, and we definitely have a good coalition of residents that are helping us kind of lead the charge in those buildings to say, like, this is how we're involved, this is why we think this needs to happen. And in addition to those meetings, we're also working pretty diligently to get those residents that do support it and that will eventually support it once they hear my amazing pitch, to write letters to the city commission and just say, like, this is something we definitely want to see going forward. And we're doing the same thing with nonprofits that currently pay too. We're drumming up letters of support from them as well, and we've received 3 so far, which is great. So
Yeah, we do need to get, you know, support, particularly from those nonprofits that have been diligently supporting us. I know Dwelling Place is a big one. The Art Museum is a big contributor, and others. So there's still work to be done, but we need to get a lot of that done before we have there'll be a hearing, and then, is that when everybody will voice concern?
So process-wise, yeah, we'll be at City Commission March 15th. That will set the public hearing. The public hearing should happen March 29th, and then one of the April meetings, they'll consider the resolution to approve it. So there's kind of a 3-step process along the way to get it
We
approved.
still have work to do to make sure we do get support for these changes. So. But questions, comments, thoughts? You know, we started out at a 10% increase in the base assessment, but I think this grant helped. I think by adding, you know, the condominium, private residential properties and bringing the nonprofits back in, we could back that down. But our problem is we've just had 3 years of no increase, and we've eaten up our reserves. So. Questions, comments? Anybody want to make a motion to approve the plan, to move it forward, I guess is what we do? You know, it could come back if the city commission or somebody, you know, puts a halt to it and we got to do something, but was that a hand up to?
No, so moved.
So moved. Well, that was an enthusiastic one. Thanks, Emily. Yeah. A second? Second, all right. Any comments, observations? All right.
I think the 1-year renewals,
Pardon?
the 1-year renewal, I think is prudent given
Yeah.
what you stated.
Yeah, that kind of came out early, that we can't get ourselves locked in. Because once we get it locked in, we're stuck with it, yeah. All right, all in favor of approving the plan as presented to move on to the city commission, say aye. Aye, and opposed? None. Good. Thank you all. And again, if you know people that, some of the condominium owners, be supportive of what we're doing, and if you know have some friends on nonprofits, or you're on some nonprofit boards, let's get it done. Yeah, bring them back in, so.
Yeah, we can send a prompt prior to the meeting, so people have a sense of when we're going, and yeah, if there's any letters of support or anyone that's able to attend, it's always
Attend and support, yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna be gone. I don't know how, I like to be there for the, I'm leaving March 1st and don't get back till early April. So I'm gonna have to count on you guys you'll recruit them?
We'll carry the water, yeah.
Because it's a night meeting. You can't, it's not a virtual meeting. Aren't those evening
anymore.
meetings?
Yep.
So either
public
you're there
hearing.
live or you're not there.
Yep.
All right. We'll figure it out. Okay, good. All right, thank you all. Appreciate the support. The reauthorization committee, but I don't know, seemed like 4 or 5 times and hashed it out and back and forth, and we got it done, so it was good. Thank you. Next is, Tim, you want to give us a little update on your?
Yeah, I'll just give a couple of updates. We did include in the packet the CEO report, so I won't dwell on it too much. 2 things I really wanted to highlight. One is that, I'm sure you saw in the news, but exciting to see the Studio Park announcement and the residential tower that is being planned to go on top of the parking ramp there. So 16 stories on top of 6, so another 22-story building on the skyline. That will be all residential. I think 160 apartments and then 20-some condos, thereabouts. So either way, very exciting, and just wanted to say congrats to Emily and family and the team, and we're excited to see that moving forward. A lot of work going into it, I know.
Part of the plan, it was just the timing and
Right,
scale that was
right.
a little bit uncertain and a couple of years of curveballs, but demand is there.
When will it start?
There's a few pieces that need to fall into place, but likely late spring, and probably if all goes as planned, it'll come together by fall of 2024.
Wow, it's a great project. Huge down there.
Very exciting.
And when you drive into town along the S-curve, you're gonna see right there, right?
Yeah, it's one of the
It'll be right there.
4 tallest buildings in Grand Rapids, so definitely.
It will be the?
One of the 4 tallest, so
Wow,
it'll be
yeah.
one of the skyline.
Another one to the sky, right? Have to change all of our, skyline pictures now? All because of Emily.
We gotta take some new
And the
ones.
Lokes family, right, yeah.
Get your
This-
drones out. Yeah.
This is Emily's tower, right? That's great.
The other thing I just wanted to point out is World of Winter is still going on, and there's new stuff happening every week, if not every day. Things coming up to highlight for this week. There's a pop-up performer night. This weekend, there's a Modelo Meltdown in the GR Chicks Way Alley. That's up in Monroe North, right off of Ottawa. There's some walking tours scheduled over the weekend, and then Movies in the Piazza is also happening, so that's down at Studio Park as well. This weekend is Cool Runnings and I, Tanya, so some Olympic-themed activities. But new art installations have been going on throughout, and that the festival will run till March 7th, so still a little bit of time. But
There's also the Noodle Fest.
Noodle Fest as well. Thanks, James. Yeah, so there's a lot happening.
What is a Noodle Fest? It's well, you know what it is.
So do you. You go ahead.
It's an Asian Pacific Foundation. They've got like a bunch of like Asian noodle vendors there. There's going to be
Yeah.
entertainment. It's happening at 6th Street Park.
Yeah.
It's like a noodle cook-off.
There's a pho eating contest, which is super fun. But no, you can go there and sample all these.
Yeah.
noodles, from all over there. So.
Good on a cold day for sure. Yeah. No, it's all good, man. That was all I wanted to highlight. But if there's questions on anything else that's in the report or just general, let us know. Yeah.
right, with that, we are through the agenda. Any public comment, anybody? Or there isn't any, there's nobody here. It's got to be in person, doesn't it? Does public comment have to be in person?
Yeah.
Somebody
Yeah,
here?
yeah, no, it's-
Nobody's here, all right.
we're safe.
All right. Anything for the good of the order? Amanda? Trish? Monica? Josh? Melvin? Tim? Jess? Mike? Colin? Emily? All right. Huh?
It's gotta be, yeah.
We got done early. We got the afternoon off and go home. All right. All right, with that, meeting is
Friday
adjourned.
afternoon
Thanks.
meeting.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Everyone's motivated.
I have the